Listen, of all the films that's coming out this year, I gotta say I've been very excited for this one for a lot of different reasons. But nonetheless, now that I got a chance to see it, a lot of thoughts to get out. So let's not wait any further and let's jump into my review, as you can see by my shirt here and probably by the graphics, of the new film If. Let's jump into that right now. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the new film If, coming to theaters May 17th. So listen, I gotta say, I've been very excited for this film because if it wasn't a promotional work, the trailers, the stuff that happened at CinemaCon, the cast, etc., all these sorts of different rumors I've been hearing, I just wanted to see it for myself. That was the bottom line here. And to kind of address some of the things I'm saying here is that, number one, when I first saw the trailer, John Park, next to Ryan Reynolds, labeled himself as John Krasinski. And I was like, that is interesting because that is a nod towards The Office, and I love it. So if you knew, you knew. But it was also such an unconventional sort of trailer that I was kind of like, what are they about to do? And Randall Park next to Ryan Reynolds already intrigues me as it is. But nonetheless, I go to CinemaCon, and CinemaCon, this is easily the film that was promoted the biggest and the most. I'm from the swag. Obviously, you see by my shirt, they had swag bags. Everywhere you look, you saw posters or some type of props of sorts. All things were pointing towards If. I also thought they might have showed the film there, but they didn't, which was kind of strange. Because I'm like, well, why not? All the promotional stuff is here. Why not show it? And they definitely had a slot to put out a film bigger than the film that they showed. But that's a story for another conversation there. And then the cast. First of all, the director and writer, John Krasinski, comes in. He reunites with Steve Carell, who voices Blue. And then you have Ryan Reynolds, who is really being poised to have one of his biggest years of his career, along with Deadpool Wolverine coming out in just a few weeks. And then you have the star from the hit show The Walking Dead, who plays Judith Grimes, who is Rick and Michonne's daughter, Cailey Fleming. Now, well, if anybody's about to correct me about the Rick and Michonne daughter, listen, it is their daughter because stepmom, whatever you want to call it, you've seen The Ones Who Live, you know. Nonetheless, Cailey Fleming comes in what I feel is, without a doubt, her career-defining role. This should put her on the map. She should be respected as a star that she is. And I've watched this little girl just blossom into just a phenomenal talent and star. And this was the role I feel will define that milestone. Because when you have folks such as Ryan and John, who are easily powerhouses on anybody's cast, you know, and Ryan, this is a perfect film for him to go out there and do his Ryan Reynolds shenanigans, you know. But the fact that Cailey comes in and she steals almost every scene, and gives us just an array of emotions, from being a determined, a curious, a sad but yet hopeful young lady. I mean, she is fantastic. So on that merit alone, watching Cailey as the character B is totally makes this a worth watch. I enjoyed that entirely. Ryan, you don't get too much of the Ryan shenanigans. Ryan doesn't get all of his jokes, and he has his moments, but it's not overpowering. And then John takes a very limited role as well too. So it really is about Cailey and the voice actors, which the voice acting crew is just kind of insane here. Like, I can't even, I like, listen, you go down this list and there's so many names I can name here. Emily Blunt, Awkwafina, Bradley Cooper, Matt Damon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I have to tell you here that if it ain't the CGI and how unique all these creatures look, and then the voice acting on top of that, and then the CGI on top of the and that's layer on top of the live action, scenes and movements and all the sorts of different things. The production is stellar. The writing is good, which I will talk a little bit more because I do have some complaints. But I think my hot take with this film easily is that this may be like the first film I've seen, and I was thinking I really couldn't think of another film, but this may be the first film in such a long time that the ending of this film completely saved the film. Because as an adult who had an if, maybe still have one, an imaginary friend, I'm looking through two sets of goggles here. The kid in me appreciates this film from beginning to end. The adult in me is seeing flaws, unrealistic actions and decisions and things that just would never happen. And the moment you start to dive too deep into that, you start to have problems with the film. But the ending of the film put every bit of reservation I had, every bit of like decision making in terms of like flaws or discrepancies in the plot and in the writing, it put it to bed at the end. But there still are a couple of other minor things that I will have to mention. But nonetheless, like, I think it's a very solid film. Very, very solid. I won't go as far as saying this is like the best film I've seen all year or any of that sort. I think if I had to rate this like B+, it's definitely a super, super solid film. So let's get into what this film is actually about. So if you don't know by now, is an acronym for imaginary friends. We never called it if. But I think I got to say, like, the fact that if and sort of the tagline along with this film, which wasn't promoted, but it was very much stated in the film a lot of times, and maybe it was promoted, but I didn't see it. I don't know. But ifs can be anything. And I love that idea and that concept, which is why so many of the creatures look so different. But at the end of the day, it is really about like one seeking like the utmost potential possibilities and so on out there, which is why even as adults, you still need your ifs. So I love that idea, that concept, and everything coming together. And this just was really cool. And then like when you kind of talk about like the pacing of the film really quickly, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. Like it wasn't until like an hour until things really started to get into motions with that notion, and then with the labs and all of the craziness with the animation and really seeing these ifs really show who they really are and why they're so distinctly different, and understanding their backgrounds and what's at stake here. And what is at stake is, again, you have Cailey Fleming as the character B. I think she's like 13 years old. She's having some really challenging times in her life. Her mom recently passed. Her dad's in the hospital. She's an amazing daughter, but she's right on that, that threshold of, I'm not a kid no more, but I'm not an adult. But I think she feels very liberated, but yet motivated by having some level of significance or purpose. So the fact that her dad's in the hospital, she's dared to be there for her dad each and every day as he goes through what he's going through. But ultimately, in one of her trips back home from the hospital, she sees something that doesn't look quite right. It happens to be an if, only to discover that the if is real. And learning about the ifs background, and what's at stake with the ifs. What's the ifs are in this situation where they're human partners. If they forget about them, they disappear. And because these ifs are such likable creatures and they're so lovable, and she wants to ensure that doesn't happen, she takes on a purpose now to help them not only reconnect with their human counterparts, but help their human counterparts remember who they are so that they can have that connection and bond together. And with that, Ryan Reynolds' character, sort of the leader of the ifs, Cal, is there to go on this purpose with B. So that's truly the gist of the film. But let me talk about some of the things I definitely had a mild issue with. Now, the film totally doesn't get deep or heavy in any aspects, to the point that the mom's death isn't fully addressed, but you can kind of speculate. The reason why the dad's in the hospital definitely isn't addressed. And the dad's recovery is definitely as unrealistic as possible. They do not put any science or logic or anything into that at all. I guess you can think whatever you want to think, and that's just okay. They never want to make things any deep or heavy, even to the point that we don't see B or her dad, who's dad, John's character, we don't see them grieve their mother at all, you know? So with such a very important aspect of these characters, the development and arcs, you know, you kind of expect for them to grieve or to process grieving or make grieving a factor into anything that they're doing, and it's really not. So again, I think that like we understand that the mom passed away, but they do not get deep or heavy into that at all. They keep this like very much on the surface level of everything. So like for me, again, as I mentioned, like like through kid lenses, there's nothing wrong with this film. But as an adult, and you start to really think very deep and like logical about things, you're like, that doesn't make sense. But again, the ending of the film really puts a bow onto all of this that just really makes it all work. I just couldn't believe that the film was recovered in a way, because I was going down a path of like, are they ever going to address this or talk about this or anything of this sort? There was definitely little things that she said, there's a plot hole, there's a plot hole, there's a plot hole. I don't want to give any of it away, but the most I will say is that B and her if, B and Cal's or B and Cal and their adventures through New York, B in New York by herself as a kid, her dad and B not grieving their mother, what is actually going on with the dad in the hospital, like, you know, all these sorts of different things. You're kind of like, wait, what? Are we going to talk about these things? But the ending saves this. Couple other things I'll talk about again. CGI is good. The score done by one of my favorite composers, Michael Giacchino. He once again scores another fantastic film, or his score is another fantastic score for a film. He just can't miss, honestly. I think, again, Cailey, breakout performance easily. I also think that the fact that the film is in or takes place or visits Coney Island, Bing Bong is all I kept saying in my head. Yo, Joe Biden. Like, I just kept saying these things in the film. It was, yeah, it's just the silliness in me. One of my favorite ifs is Cosmo, played by the legendary, and I really do mean legendary, and Christopher Meloni. I could not. First of all, I didn't even realize he had such an extensive voice acting list of credits. But Christopher, my guy, as Cosmo, easily is the best. And you know Christopher from good old Law and Order. But like, man, did he show up in this film as Cosmo? Cosmo is easily, and while Blue is like the main one, who's played by John Krasinski, who John did a fantastic job, Cosmo comes in and it's kind of like, I like that one the most. Or maybe it's just the one I connect with. I don't know. But, you know, again, with everything that's happening in this film, the film did have really, really cool messages. Again, like, you know, if you always need an if, even if you grow up. And just like how anything could be an if, and the fact that they explore so many different stylings and animations, or just, you can almost say like configurations of ifs. Like, they really did a really good job with it. And then before the credits start, they really do have some magical moments, which I'm not going to give away. But once you see the if at the end, like the if title screen, and before the credits, they have these really magical sequences that happen that really hits you in the feel. And for me to have seen this screening in the theater full of kids, I'm going to say that, like, I couldn't quite tell if the kids loved this film or not. There wasn't a crazy reaction like I was expecting it to have, but I think they did enjoy it. At most, they enjoyed it. I don't think they loved it, but the adults certainly did. And to that point, I think this is definitely not like a young kids film, but like, let's just say semi-mature-ish audience for the kids. But nonetheless, it's still a very solid film. This was expecting a little bit more for the young kids that was in there, that I thought. And then the end credit scene, my goodness. The only thing I'm going to say is stay tuned for the mid-credit scene. A dedication to Louis Gossett Jr., who recently passed in March, I believe. I get choked up thinking about it, but what just a lovely way to end the film and pay tribute to him. It was beautiful. So that's a lot of thoughts, like I said, with the film If, because it is well deserving. I mean, again, from top to bottom, the production was good. John, writer, director, John comes back after A Quiet Place and Quiet Place 2, which, you know, those are both both two fantastic films. And to me, it tells me that he has such reins in his storytelling. The fact that you go from something as sick and sinister as A Quiet Place to something with so much heart and joy as If makes me not only just a huge fan of his from all of his acting work, but I really can't wait to see what he's going to cook up next in his directing seat. So check out If. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This, again, is a film that I enjoy. Very B+. Didn't overly love it. You know, if it comes on television on demand, maybe I'll check it out again. But for what it's worth, the production, the score, the acting by Cailey, Ryan Reynolds taking a supporting role was something I just didn't think. Or maybe it's just because Cailey just really just shined so bright that it didn't matter. And then just a very deep cast of voice actors who comes in and brings these ifs to life. So yeah, you check it out, folks. Y'all let me know in the comments once y'all do. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon. Thank you for watching, folks.
Reconnect.